I'm here today to speak about ReShark, and I'm the program director for Thrive Conservation, but also Indonesian program manager for STAR and co-chair of the steering committee with my fellow co-chair right here, Aaron. I'm here to represent many humans that actually made this project happen. I'm just one part of it, and very honored to be here to represent all of them. To start off, this is what we call in the marine conservation world a tertiary level marine conservation. You have your primary, which is focused on marine protected area. You have fisheries and alternative livelihood, which is secondary. And this is the last bit, basically the tertiary bit, where you're bringing species back when all the first two is done. And to start off, I'm going to introduce you to the animal that we are going to focus today. It's the Indo-Pacific leopard shark, or Americans, you know this as zebra shark. I just want to focus on the scientific names, Stoma tigrinum. So sometimes I would be referring to this as stags for short. They're a beautiful animal. They're actually, you can find them right here in Australia. They're frequently found just resting on sandy bottoms. They're quite lazy, actually. They don't move very much. And they're egg layers as well. And I hope you get to see them today at the Sea Life Sydney, because I think some of them are laying some eggs for this project at the moment. And they can lay up to 40 to 80 eggs per year. And when they hatch, they're only about 30 centimeter, also mostly tail. It's only about this much is actually body. But they can grow up to 2.5 meters in length, which is quite a big shark and quite a meaty shark as well. They reach about maturity around 6 to 8 years, but according to citizen science data that is in Australia, our lead scientist, Dr. Christine Dudgeons, have met one leopard shark back in the 1980s, or maybe it was photographed in the 1980s, and already an adult, and she just photographed it again around the last few years, and we know that it's at least like 40 years, so we have no idea how long it will live, actually. And if you see the ridges on the top of the body, it kind of looks like a whale shark, doesn't it? And it's actually most closely related to a whale shark, although one has to swim all the time and the other one just sits. And another interesting fact is, if you see the mouth over there, they are not bitey sharks. They actually have grinding plates. So they predominantly eat clams and snails and little fish. They actually suck them in. And they go through these amazing dramatic pattern changes from juvenile to adult. So that's why they are called zebra shark to begin with, because they look like zebras and then they morph into leopard. And actually, as juveniles, they're thought to mimic a banded sea snake as a form of defense mechanism, so they don't get eaten. And one important fact is the fact that they develop a permanent individualistic spot patterns when they're adult, basically similar to a manta ray and a whale shark, so you can actually follow an individual once they've developed this pattern for the rest of their life. And lastly, I don't want you to focus too much on this, a bit nerdy, but very important in this project. This is a study that was done by Dr. Christine Dudgeon back in 2009, and she actually did the genetic, and they actually get split by subpopulation right on the Wallacea line. So in Indonesia, the left side, which is in Borneo or Kalimantan, they're mostly closely related to the one in Thailand, whilst Raja Ampat and Eastern, they are mostly closely related to the one in Australia. So this is quite important fact to do any kind of repopulation, because we don't want to do genetic pollution. Although they're not a subspecies, they're just subpopulation. And in Australia, they aggregate in large numbers, actually, up to 500 individuals. If you go to Stradbroke Island or Byron Bay, you can see a lot of them. I get to see them this December for the first time, so happy. I've never seen one in the wild. And they move regularly up to 2,000 kilometers. When it's winter in the south, they move all the way to the north. And but in the tropics, they have higher site fidelity. So if you go to Thailand, you'll see the same individual all year round. They don't move that much. They don't have to, actually. So to start off this project, I need to take you back to the backstory, which is a long one. And you can't really appreciate how amazing this project is without understanding the amount of decades of work that goes into this. And someone who's in the younger generation, I feel very much obligated and privileged to be part of this project, but I do appreciate all my elders who have made this happen. So I'll take you through a little bit of a story. So leopard sharks were very popular sightings in Southeast Asia and amongst divers and snorkelers back in the 80s and 90s. But by the late 90s and 2000, they actually became increasingly rare because they were a new fad to the shark fin soup. So they were heavily targeted. They don't move very much, so you can actually just go down, free dive, and harpoon them. They don't really move. So it's very easy to basically decimate a whole population if you want to. And this is quite a common scene in Jakarta, in Bangkok, in India. And by 2003, they were actually listed as vulnerable on the IUCN Red List. And on the other side, in 2007, has anyone been to Raja Ampat? Oh, not that many. Does anyone gonna go to Raja Ampat? Everyone does. Okay. This is like the mecca for the underwater world. If you hear enough from International Rhino Ray Foundation, Rhino Foundation mentioned that Indonesia is like a mega fauna, mega biodiversity area. This is the heart of the coral triangle, basically. Over 2,000 species of fish. I think 70 or 80% of the coral reef species in the world, coral species in the world you can find here. If you go diving, Aaron has dived there, you don't know where to look, honestly. It's going down and then there's so many. But also, it wasn't always like that. So you've had shark finning, you've had bomb fishing, you have overfishing in Raja Ampat in the early 2000s as well. Not necessarily by the local community, it's more outside of Raja Ampat, still within Indonesia. So in 2007, they managed to make a network of 9 marine protected area covering 2 million hectares. And this is what I call the blueprint of doing marine conservation, because they did this completely with the local community and the local indigenous people. They designed the zones. And it took a long time. And on top of it, they also made the entire Raja Ampat archipelago a shark and ray sanctuary. Tremendous recovery for reef sharks. I mean, in early 2000, you can hear from pioneers that they barely see any sharks because they're all finned. But by 2012, all the black tips are like cockroaches of the sea. And it's actually one of the only reef manta population that is growing by 10% each year, and where everywhere else is declining. But unfortunately, by 2012, there were minimal signs of recovery of leopard sharks. So they were decimated to a point that is so low that probably Mama and Papa shark never really meet. So over 15,000 hours of monitoring, I think less than 20 individuals were seen. So this basically gave an opportunity for this project. And on the flip side, for those of you who are in aquariums, you're having these guys breeding like rabbits. And basically the story is my mentor, Mark Erdman, was visiting the Singapore aquarium. I think Alfonso's here, over there. And they were telling him, we've got all these leopard sharks. We don't know what to do with it. We can't release it in Singapore water. And he went, I know where you can do that. And he has been working in Raja Ampat since the beginning. So he knows a place where it's safe enough and it's not going to get killed again. And apparently there was the same problem in many other aquariums, to a point where you have to separate the males and females. You even have the AZA SSP to make sure that you're managing the population and not overrun with baby sharks, even though they're cute. And by 2016, it was uplisted again into endangered. And Mark was actually shopping this idea around with multiple aquariums, whether this is doable or not. And by 2019, end of 2019, right before COVID, they made an initial workshop on the conservation translocation of leopard shark at Georgia Aquarium to see if it's even possible to do this. And after 3 days of workshop, they said, yes, it's doable. So February 2020, at the start of the pandemic, the Stygostoma tigrinum augmentation and recovery project is born. Yes, you can see that a scientist made this name. It's very long. And the goal is to reestablish a healthy, genetically diverse breeding population of Indo-Pacific leopard shark through conservation translocation of bred juveniles in aquarium, and basically fly them over to Indonesia. And soon after that, working groups were immediately made, like steering committee, research, husbandry, veterinary, Indonesian implementation and communication. And this is when Mark offered me the job to join. It was either take the most challenging opportunity for a 25-year-old or unemployment, because I ran out of my funds at that point. And I did say, are you sure about this? I don't really know how to speak to central government, and I don't have a filter. I was like, oh, you'll figure it out. So I did figure it out, but I guess that's why they want me around. And then we knew that before we came to the government, we need to answer the most important question: do we need to do it? And if we want to do it, what does success look like? So this is when we reach out to IUC and CPSG. Is Oni here? Oh, Oni's over there. So Oni is from IUC and CPSG to do a population viability analysis of what the success looks like. How many eggs do we need to bring in? How long do we have to do this? And it was clear that with less than 20 adult left, we need a minimum of 500 to have a genetically diverse and working population. And Raja Ampat basically has a roughly 2,000 individual carrying capacity. And if we don't do it, it takes about 100 years for the original population to actually recover on its own. Whilst if we ship 50 to 100 eggs a year, we get there after 10 years. So I have job security. Yay. And we also obviously put in the mortality, how many, not all of them will survive, of course, but basically the magic number is 500. And Dr. Kathy Traylor-Holzer basically said, this projection is really, really good, and it's a no-brainer that we have to do it, which is an important document when I was coming to the government. It's like, yes, we have to do it. So from May 2021 and 2022, just a year I won't ever get my life again. We focused on getting the permits from Indonesian government. It's fun going to Indonesian government and telling something that hasn't been done before in the world and asking them how to do it, and they don't know how to do it either. So it's mostly jumping between government departments for an entire year to figure out what permit is actually needed. So we had a high-level meeting. This was during COVID. That's why everyone's on mask. We even had the governor of West Papua came. I had to translate to him in English while Aaron and Chris is on the Zoom call. It was very fun. And all the while, we're also developing this. We were also developing the SOPs for the life support system, the husbandry, the research, how to ship it. And most importantly, we did genetic tests on all the mamas and papa shark in all the aquarium to make sure that we are only breeding the eastern population to get to Raja Ampat. And of course, I know aquariums might side eye at me on this, but we do call our aquarius shark nannies because it's cute and they love being shark nannies. And we actually did the first training at Jakarta Aquarium. I think Taman Safari Indonesia is somewhere here as well. Maybe there, yeah. So it's part of Taman Safari Indonesia. Of course, one of the most important facilities to make is the nursery of where we're gonna house these baby sharks, and also get them to grow and augment like living in the wild before we release them. So that took a bit of time, and I had to be hands-on as well on that aspect. I learned so many skills like plumbing, which I didn't know I had to learn. So that's me doing the underwater pump and pipe. And also we had the tanks made by local Papuans, but we didn't know how to get it all the way to the nursery, so we just made them row it like a boat, which is quite fun. I made it into a race. And And we finished construction by mid-2022. So for those of you who don't know where Raja Ampat is, I probably should have put this in the front. That's the Bird Head Seascape. That's the head of the Papua island. And Raja Ampat, oh wait, where's the? Raja Ampat is basically this entire archipelago. And when I said a network of 9 marine protected area, that's all this. But there's also a network of protected area here and also here, and they're all kind of connected to each other. So the 2 blue dots are where the nurseries are, both in the central and both in the south. And we actually chose the 2 resorts there, and also a resort that has a foundation attached to it, that have been doing conservation for the beginning, since the early 2000s, and have done the work for conservation and amazing partners. So we chose the Raja Ampat Research and Conservation Center and Misol Foundation as part of our partners to house our nursery. And that's our nursery at Cree. Who wants to go? Yeah. Actually, there's an extra, there's an extra building here now called the ReShark Lodge, where all the nannies and future partners will stay. I stay there too now. After that was done, August 2022 is our first egg shipment. And it's actually from Sea Life Sydney here. You'll meet the mama and papa shark, actually Zimba and Gohan. We're the first 2 breeders to give. Laura was there. Is Laura here? No, maybe she's not. So Laura was there as well to deliver the eggs and do a little bit of training for ongoing training for the shark nanny. We also had husbandry experts from Shed Aquarium, from Shark Reef Mandalay Bay, from Georgia Aquarium to come as well when the eggs started hatching. And we also did an official launch with the government and local stakeholders. You know, it's like an opening of the project. And I'll show you what it looks like. This is actually a shipment from just last month to both of the nursery. We had our biggest shipment ever of 25 eggs. One was at Misol Foundation, one as at Rock Nursery. I no longer have to fly with the eggs now. I just coordinate on WhatsApp, which is good. And then, of course, these are the babies inside the eggs. If you've never seen one, they're very cute. They're actually the biggest shark egg of all species. It's 17 centimeter. Americans, you can convert that yourself. And of course, all of them have names. And if you're wondering why they sound very Western, it's because they're all adopted. And the adopter get to name them. But we also do naming, doesn't show it, but it's on the bottom. We do honorary names as well. Like the firstborn male was named Charlie after Professor Charlie, who is our head of the West Papua government and been our lead agency from the start. We also had Chris, who's our local conservation hero, who sadly passed away early this year. But a pup actually was hatched hours after his passing, and he was an indigenous leader that basically made Raja Ampat what it is. He explained MPA theory to local people, which is quite amazing. So it was a no-brainer that one of the pup needs to be named Chris. And that's what it looks like when it hatched. That's Molly. Aaron was actually there when it hatched. And so they start off with the egg tank first, and then they get fed until they're good with like non-target feeding. And then when they get a little bigger, they go to the pup tank. They meet other sharks. Sometimes they're introverted, sometimes they avoid each other, sometimes they snuggle together. They're all very individualistic, actually. And once they're good with dispersed feeding and they're about 50 or 60 centimeter, they get RFID tagged. And then they go to the sea pen. Now, this is my kind of shark soup. So a lot of, this was just a month ago 2 months ago where we have basically 16 in one sea pen, and it's just magic. And of course, in the sea pen, they get challenged a bit more. We give them clams and snails and hide them under the sand. And some of them are, oh, sorry. Whoa. That was a spoiler, damn it. Is that playing? Damn it, that's not playing. Okay, that was supposed to be a video. Oh, somebody's playing it for me. Or doesn't work. Never mind, it's okay. So they get to learn how to hunt the clams and snails under the sun as well to augment the wealth, and they can find and forage for their own after their release. So I'm gonna jump into a kind of a leeway here. These three were just born when WAZA started, just Sunday, Monday, and yesterday. And I'm giving an opportunity for all of you to give a name, basically, for one of them. A girl name, by the way. So I think they're gonna do a Slido where you can give your suggested name. No brand names, although I think WAZA is cute.
If you log into Slido right now, there's a word cloud that we have active, so you'll be able to put your names in there, and at the end of Nesha's speech, we'll bring that up and reveal that.
Yeah, and of course, there are some people who I want to have honorary name, like Dr. Christine Dudgeons and Mark Erdman and Aaron Meyer, but all of them said no. So maybe you guys can do it. Everyone got the link? Yeah, okay. Can I go back to the presentation? No. Okay. Yeah. So a little bit of a pup date. So as I said, they're predominantly fed live food, clams, snails, and crabs, and supplemented with fresh fish, squid, and shrimp. Most of our pups actually manage to eat a live snail, from day one, and they actually grow very fast, which we didn't foresee. Most aquariums grow them to up to 70 centimeter within 6 to 9 months. Ours grew in 2.5 months to 3 months. And that's majorly because Raja Ampat's 30 degrees, by the way. And the live food is just calorie bomb for them. One of them, I think the one that didn't play the video, that was Marshall. He managed to eat 100 snails a day. So, yeah. And you're asking, how are we getting all these live food? Well, the best people to get live food are the kids of Raja Ampat themselves. So we work with local schools and NGOs like Charlie Papua, Barefoot Conservation, the Sea People, to get local kids to go to the mangroves. If they have jetties in their villages, that you can get the snails. And it's kind of an income source for local fishers, but also an outreach opportunity for the kids. They get to go to the mangrove and deliver the food to the nursery, and they get to feed the pup. And actually, some of them get to follow a pup's journey from when it's hatched until it's released. So this is my favorite part, because it's like, these are the future guardians of our babies, and they're involved from the start. And another part of how we socialize the program, other than going to villages, we also have a children's storybook coming up. It's still in progress, but it should come early next month. And it's all about how this project come about with, it's very busy, but I'll let you know when it's out so you can order it. So one of the most important part of repopulation is actually getting the criteria from IUCN Conservation Translocation, which is you need to be able to prove a success. So that means you have to follow an animal and have a rigid post-release monitoring. And for those of you who are in zoos, probably in the terrestrial world, it's not that difficult, but in the ocean is super difficult. But fortunately, Raja Ampat have already got an array of acoustic receiver that was used before for manta rays. So now we have 2 large arrays of passive acoustic receivers in the Dampier Strait and in South Misol. And all the pups are tagged with RFID tag at 50 centimeter, and it get internally acoustic tag with a V16 at 90 centimeter. And that's actually our senior vet, Jaya, who's doing the surgery and have all the shark nannies and me involved, which is an amazing opportunity for learning. And they get released around 1 meter. And of course, one of the most reliable post-release monitoring in the future, once they've developed their spot patterns, is the photo ID, which actually we've already got quite a few reciting, which I'll let you know. And I just want to take this opportunity to thank the shark nannies and interns. This is one of my most proudest part of the program is the capacity building aspect. And we have, I think it's up to 20 now, shark nannies and interns who are already trained. And just to let you know, shark nannies usually stay for around 2 years because you can only get to a certain point in the shark nanny job, and then you kind of max out. And most of them are actually going to further studies. We actually have one shark nanny who's doing a master's at Texas A&M, and she's focusing on the growth between aquariums and the nursery, comparing the water quality, open system and closed system. And her sister, Mary Rose, who's here, she's about to do her PhD, and it's gonna be all about the diet as well. So that's like the trajectory for our shark nannies. It's an opportunity to lead the research in Indonesia, but also the interns stay about 2 months, and if they're really, really good, this one will be a shark nanny next month. So release season, I'm actually in the middle of it right now. So we just released a bunch of pups starting in September, and we have 2 more in the sea pen actually left that needs to be released when I get home. And it's super fun to do the release because we do it one animal at a time because we want to follow and see what it does in the first 10-20 hours with an acoustic tracker. But we also involve the kids who are doing the clam and snail hunting, the local communities, the Raja Ampat patrol team, which are mostly indigenous as well. And also because it's attached to a resort, the Misol Resort and the Papua Diving Resort, we sometimes involve the guests as well to be part of it. So it's a whole event every time there's a release. And sometimes we get to see them again in the wild because they stay around for 10 hours. So these are some of the photos of the pups that stays around the resort or the release site for a bit, and we get to take photos, and the shark nannies and the interns get to take photos with them, which is amazing. So pup resighting. So far we have 20 pups released, 9 possible resightings of 5 of them. Bear in mind with the 20 adults that is left, there's never been a sighting of juveniles for the last 2 decades. So when we started releasing, we started seeing juveniles. We figured like, who else could it be? And actually the one that is confirmed now is Karen, who was spotted 8 kilometers from the nursery 9 days post-release. This was actually taken by one of the local communities, and they thought, this is the special shark from Cree. Maybe it escaped. Do we have to catch it? Do we have to return it? And they didn't have our contact, so it went from like uncles to aunties to like somebody's mom until it reached our shark nanny to let them know that one of the pups have traveled all the way there. Our acoustic monitoring of first sets of pups had limited success, but now it's configured with new programming and longer lifespan. And of course, the leopard shark research for the photo ID is up and running now. So we have so many liveaboards and dive centers who are sending us photos of other adults. I feel like we've had more sightings of adults now. Maybe the smell from the nursery is like attracting them to come. But it's been quite a number of adults being sighted as well. And other than the work that we do at the nursery, of course, leopard shark is right now only protected within Raja Ampat, but Indonesia is still not protected yet. So the STAR project actually inspired the government to put it as a priority species, and we just conducted our first initial workshop with the government in May. But believe it or not, the main threat for them is no longer fins. It's actually the skin for the leather trade, and Indonesia exports like 20,000 kilograms just during COVID, and that's skin, so dry skin. And if you go to, I think European yachts have them on the wall sometimes. But so yeah, this is an amazing first step towards protecting the species nationally. And also we've had marine protected areas that's next to Raja Ampat that heard of the project. Fishermen are now releasing leopard sharks if they get caught in fishing lines as well, because they know it's a special shark of Papua now. So other than the work in Indonesia, we also do wild population research that I've already mentioned, Dr. Christine Dudgeons. That's her with a giant leech that was attached to the shark's clasper that's specialized for a leopard shark. Looks like a lollipop. So she does the work for diet and growth of adult and juveniles and population density, movement, and genetic diversity. And this is on the remaining healthy population, and it's all to feed the STAR project's work. And that's actually how you catch an adult. Apparently, it's very easy. They just go into tonic, by the way. That's not dead. So you're asking if anyone is interested in this project. Yes, we have so many media that's approaching us. I'm pretty tired of camera at this point, but it's amazing for the project, so I power through it. So even before we had our project launched, we had, I think AZA Connect had an article on us, The Guardian, Science had an article on us, and after that, it was just a slew of documentary filmmakers that non-stop coming to the nursery. I'm really, like, we had 4 in the last 2 months doing the release as well. And of course, the first release that we ever did was covered by National Geographic. I had to be the poster child. And it had an 18-page spread on the July issue of last year on all the project. And of course, with all the people that are talking about the project, we like to tell the story ourselves. So, wait. Sorry. So we have newsletters, and if you want to sign up to your newsletter, you can go to the QR and put your emails in. And of course, our social media is very, very active. You can follow it at ReShark.org, or the website is www.reshark.org. I remember what Adam Spencer said yesterday, bringing in the younger generation to the table and, you know, having AI and all that. I will just let you know our media, our social media, and our newsletter is done by one person only, and he does everything, and he's excellent. Shout out to Nat. So just to bring you all back on, like, what's the STAR project and what's ReShark? So after we made STAR project, we realized that we can actually do this with a lot of other species, and we want a more encompassing umbrella and a less geekier name. So we came with ReShark, and it's an international coalition to recover threatened sharks and rays around the world with a focus on conservation translocation. And to give you guys a bit of background, ReShark is not a legal entity, it's just a coalition. So I'm from a different NGO called Thrive Conservation. It's a small NGO in Indonesia. The nursery is with 2 different NGOs. The listing of species is led by Konservasi Indonesia. That's a different NGO. We have aquarium. So I'm basically managing different people in Indonesia that is not under my own NGOs. But this is like what an international collaboration is all about. And it's just, everyone just wants this project to work, which is amazing. And future ReShark project, anyone who are interested to do this with other species will benefit from the experience, brand recognition, infrastructure that has been developed with ReShark. And it's good to have it all under one umbrella and, you know, learn from each other. And right now we have over 100 partners. It's a lot. I don't even know how many countries there is, but you don't have to be a breeder to be a partner. You can donate blood for the genetic. You can do basically anything. You can sponsor a vet training. Ocean Park Hong Kong was just sponsoring our vet training back in April. You can be the collection facility like Seattle Aquarium, where everyone from US send it to one spot, so it just sends to Indonesia from one place. So yeah, there's multiple opportunities to be a partner. And just a little bit on the financing is, you know, it's a bit weird not having a legal entity. So our financing is mainly done by private donors, grants. I have to write proposal. I have one due actually yesterday. We also have Adopt the Shark. So you guys have the opportunity to name a pup without paying 10,000 right now. Privilege. And that's been going very well. That's also why the names are all Western, because most of them are Western adopters. But we also developing nursery tours, because we have so many liveaboards and resorts who wants to come to the nursery and learn from it, and merch as well. And of course, as I said, in-kind support from aquarium partner is highly, highly appreciated. You really can help this project on any way you can. And this is the ReShark Council. we had a retreat in Seattle last year in August. So what is ReShark's next step? We actually already made a second project now. It's going to be in Thailand, and it's going to focus on Western population. We've identified my Thai counterpart, a schmuck who wants to do this. And right now she's on the process of working with the governments on the approvals and the permits and building the CPEN, and it's going to focus on the Western side of the population. We are also working with artificial insemination to increase the number of breeders and tackle parthenogenesis. So all those of you who only have a female maybe or a male in your facility, if we tackle artificial insemination, that's going to be increasing the number of breeders and genetic diversity as well for the, donating the eggs. And does anyone know what parthenogenesis is? Okay, most of you know. For those of you who don't know, it's basically like virgin birth, and basically shark can do that. So we've had sharks, mama and papa shark have been separated for a while now, and that's like an automatic switch apparently for the females. So we've had a problem with parthenogenesis a little bit. So more female and more male and more availability of semen or sperm maybe will kind of reduce the amount of parthenote we'll be sending. And of course, we are looking into other species like bowmouth guitarfish, large stingrays, and other sharks, because most of them are endangered and critically endangered as well. So I'll wrap it up to a quick video on the project. This is just 3 minutes. And I have sound. Where? Is there sound? Ah, no. Come on. Damn it. Okay. Okay, there's no sound. But this is basically 10 easy steps to do this. Easy. That's where the ReShark nursery is in Cree. That's our nursery. That's when we did our training. That's Laura when we had our first shipment. The eggs really does travel very far. Australia's not that far, but I think from Seattle I counted it was like 26,000 kilometers before it reached the nursery. That's our hatching. So we had our launch. That's how they eat it. Ale, by the way, it's like escargot. That's our first release. This was like initially done in Wayak Lagoon, but we had a bit of a homing issue, so we moved it now to the right in front of the nursery. We had also a blessing ceremony by the indigenous lead of Wayak Lagoon, and I had to hold the shark for 20 minutes for a shot. We released them a bit smaller at the beginning, but now we're doing it at 1 meter. are so cute. Oh, and they like to swim on the surface as well. Yes. So, yeah, thank you.